This episode is brought to you by Indeed. When your computer breaks, you don't wait for it to magically start working again. You fix the problem. So why wait to hire the people your company desperately needs? Use Indeed's sponsored jobs to hire top talent fast. And even better, you only pay for results. There's no need to wait. Speed up your hiring with a $75 sponsored job credit at Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply.
Welcome back to I Want That Too, the podcast where Disney merch meets Disney history. I'm entertainment writer Jim Hill, and as always, I'm joined by the lovely Lauren Hersey, who, you're feeling better, right? A little better?
Yeah, a little better. We're dealing, in West Virginia, we're dealing with change of seasons, and so my sinuses, it got me down and out, but lots better today. Thank you for asking. How are you on this fall eve?
Well, I mean, again, it's seriously fall up here in New England. In fact, I look in my backyard and it's like, oh man, that is too many leaves. And that means I'm going to have to break out a rake at some point and
just don't forget to wear your Orange Bird Spirit jersey so you don't get shot. It is probably hunting season.
Very much so. Very much so. But anyway, and speaking of seasons, Laura and I, we were pre-gaming tonight's show, and I mentioned that I was over at DisneyStore.com. I just figured, okay, do my due diligence, and it's just sort of like, okay. And again, we're recording this on October 6th, and it's just sort of like, it's Christmas at DisneyStore.com. I mean, it is seriously Christmas. I had to go 3/4 of the way down the page before I finally found some Halloween stuff, and even then, it was 30% off. So the mouse is moving on,
which is not abnormal. I feel like we're already there. Like it just messes me up. Like in this area we have like Boo at the Zoo and trick or treating and stuff. Like I'm moving on to Christmas with Disney. That's not okay.
But this year, I guess, again, and you mentioned this previously on the show, you're doing gentle Christmas. You're trying to get stuff done as much in advance as possible. And, that involves shopping for your daughter, Lainey, who's into Wicked. And I don't know if some of the products you just mentioned to me prior to us getting started here are things I put in Lainey's stocking. But can you share the latest Wicked for Good products you've learned about?
And I can't take the credit. I have to throw it out to one of our listeners, Janie, who just sent me an email as we were hopping on tonight. And she says, I couldn't believe this was a thing, but apparently there's no limit to the Wicked merchandising machine. And she is not wrong. She sent me the Gain Wicked laundry detergent packs. There are like 2 different Wicked scents. And they now have Cascade Wicked dishwashing pouches and dishwashing liquid. Like, it is a crazy town. Everybody wants in on the Wicked hype.
Well, please tell me at least the packets are like what they have: green washing fluid and pink washing fluid. I mean, at least we're doing the Elphaba Galinda thing, right? Maybe?
Yeah,
no?
That is what it's all about. So as we get more Wicked merch, and I know we are kind of Disney adjacent with Wicked, but I will keep everybody posted. But we do have a jam-packed show, so we better get to it. So on today's show, we're going to talk about Disney's most coveted collectible, the blue name tag. Not sure if you've heard of that. I know you probably have, Jim, but listeners. Plus, we've got news about the first ever Jim Henson Company auction, the return of Ollie, the gingerbread man at Jollywood Nights. And Jim, your feature is taking us back to when Sears almost sponsored a big attraction, right, at Disney's MGM Studios?
That I am. But before we can get to that, folks, we have to acknowledge our sponsor. And of course, this episode of I Want That Too is brought to you by our friends at UnlockMagic.com. And that's the same trusted team behind the DVC rental store and DVC resale market. So if you are planning a trip down to Disney, UnlockMagic.com has the very best deals when it comes to Walt Disney World tickets, including the lowest price for party tickets. Again, we're we're moving on past, Mickey's Not So Scary. We're strictly focusing now on what? Mickey's Very Merry and even Jollywood Nights. And they've got tickets available for that. So visit unlockmagic.com to get the very best ticket deals and make your next Disney trip just a bit more magical. Okay, now continuing on. So we have blue name tags. Do you want to kind of explain what this is about?
Yeah, so I saw an article and it says that only 1% of Disney employees ever get the highly coveted blue name tag. So I was intrigued, obviously, and then I went down the rabbit hole on name tags because I remember our resident Imagineer Jim Scholl posting his stack of like all of his name tags over the years. Do you remember? Did you ever see that tweet he made? I feel like he's talked about it a couple times.
Oh yeah, no, no. He has easily 20, maybe 30 from the various different projects he's worked on over the years. But no blue one there in the pile. So, do you want to explain how one actually gets the blue name tag?
Yeah. So from what I understand, and correct me if I'm wrong, it is the highest honor that a cast member can get. Like you can't buy it, you can't trade for it. Like you have to earn it. And nominations are all peer driven and anonymous. And from what I understand, they focus on 3 pillars, which are dream, create, and inspire.
Yeah, and again, I want to stress here what makes the blue name tag so special is how rare they are. Now, mind you, once upon a time, the really rare name tag were the original Disneyland name tags, and Lauren, these were brass, and this was back in the day when Disney didn't have cast members; they had Happy Disneylanders.
No way! I don't think I've ever heard you say that. Like, I never heard that before.
Oh, yeah. Well, and the weird thing is because this was exclusive to the original Disneyland cast. We're talking only 500 or 600 people, who had those brass name tags. And so when they'd show up at collectible shows, in California, they would get top dollar. But this is different. This is literally the worldwide parks, the entire global workforce for Disney. And, so, you've got thousands upon thousands of people who've been nominated for this thing, but only a handful are ever recognized. And I guess they do this annually. Is that correct?
Yeah. And so when the recipient, when they're announced, the recipients get like a surprise ceremony. I guess it is very emotional and they cry when they get their name tags. But this year's oldest honoree, and I would have to assume this is the oldest honoree that they've had. I could be wrong, but was Henry Hank Amin, age 92, and he started, right? He started as a Jungle Cruise skipper back in 1958 and has even said to have had lunch with Walt Disney himself.
Wow. I wonder, again, if Hank started in 58, I'm going to assume that he wasn't eligible for the brass Happy Disneylander thing. Again, that was strictly for folks who started in 55. But even so, that's kind of cool. Lunch with Walt. Anyway, so again, living Disney history right there, folks. And then you have folks like Willie Jackson, who's a PhotoPass photographer, and again, this is fascinating. He's reportedly received more guest compliments than anyone else at Disneyland. So again, it's not about a job title. Folks who work custodial, folks who work on the entertainment side of the parks, even operations behind the scenes. You can find, folks who've been recognized with that special blue name tag everywhere.
Yeah, and so according to the Disney Parks blog, where we get all of our verified info, that's by design. So it's open to cast members, Imagineers, designers, cruise line crew, everyone. And the whole point of this is that it is peer-to-peer recognition, and, they can see their peers dreaming bigger and creating magic and inspiring others. I really love this, that it's not like it's just how good your manager thinks you're doing or her team lead, or like even the number of like cast member compliments, because you could be amazing to people and they might not, fill out the form on, the My Disney Experience app.
They're not wrong. But again, this is why the blue name tag has such an aura. And again, not sold, not traded. You have to earn it.
Yeah. So that's where the collector side of me comes in. I'm like, okay, like where were there, are there name tags on the black market or on eBay, resale market, not black market? I don't know what we're talking about here. But fans can't buy a real legacy name tag, but there's a whole market full of name tag style merch out there.
Yeah, I mean, the souvenir version. So, and some of these are we find over on Etsy, right?
Yeah, so you can get replicas on Etsy as little as like under $9. And Disney itself has put out honorary cast member pins, like honorary princess or pirate tags. Those ones are normally around like $12.99. You get them on eBay; they're more like $17, $18. But I think last time I was at the park, I saw them for like mom and dad and aunt.
And it's worth noting that if you go back into the park history, I mean, for example, I want to say this time last year on I Want That Too, we did a feature story on Little Monsters on Main Street.
We did.
And one of the perks of Little Monsters on Main Street, these are cast members bringing their kids into the park to trick or treat. So the kids would look just like mom or dad. They could get name tags made, and these were special Little Monsters on Main Street name tags that Sally and Nancy and whoever could wear along with mom and dad, and these show up on eBay if you're trying to chase them down. But
right.
But anyway, back to the other ones you can get. Remember, we've got the guest of honor tags, these plastic badges you can personalize in the park back in the day. Those sadly have been discontinued now, but what is it? Again, if you go to the secondary market, they're getting $40, sometimes $50 for those things.
Yep, and the list just keeps on going. There was Disney Cruise Line Star Wars Day at Sea. You can still find those ones online. And then when I was telling Eric about this, because I was asking him if he knew anything about the blue name tag, he said that you used to be able to purchase name tags in Star Wars Galaxy's Edge. Do you remember that?
Well, yeah, but I mean, the whole point was, I want to say they were name tags, but in what is the Star Wars language, Arabesh? It was one of these things where it's like, oh, pal, you are really leaning into, I'm here at Black Spire Outpost, and this is my name tag, which only, the special people who really love Star Wars can read. And it's like, okay.
All right. Well, I loving the name tags. Go online and check out some of the merch.
Okay. Now, moving on to our next story, which, kind of an expensive story, at least for me. This has to do with the Jim Henson Company. They've got an auction coming up. Is that correct?
Yes, and firsthand because you've purchased something. I'm going to let you get to that in a minute.
Yeah.
But so what they're doing, the Jim Henson Company is putting more than 400 pieces from its archives up for auction this fall.
Yeah, and what's interesting about this, we are talking costumes, props, set pieces, posters, actual puppets, and this one I have a tiny bit of trouble with, the even calendars autographed by Miss Piggy herself.
I think this is so cool, and didn't they announce this on what would have been Jim Henson's 89th birthday?
Yeah, they did. They did. And now, what's worth noting about this, folks, is, again, Disney has the Muppets, okay, but this is the Jim Henson Company. So what we're looking at here, what's coming up for bid, are pieces from Sesame Street, from Fraggle Rock, from The Dark Crystal, Labyrinth, all of these things that the hardcore Henson fans really, really will lust after.
And I don't know if I ever told you this, Eric's, one of his favorite movies is The Labyrinth. I'm like,
Is it really?
Yes, it's pretty obscure. We used to watch it back when we were dating, because Eric and I were high school sweethearts, and that was when I liked him enough to watch whatever he wanted. And so we had to watch The Labyrinth on repeat.
Okay, so and we're far enough along. There we go. Okay. All right, yin yang, right there. Okay. Okay. Now, look. I'm realistic to know that of these 400 items, that the Jim Henson, company is making available, they're going to go for thousands, Lauren. A chance of myself or Eric, poor Eric, who'd want a piece from Labyrinth so bad. I just don't see that happening. But on the other hand, there is a hardcover catalog that Julian's Auction is creating for this special 70th anniversary of the Jim Henson Company. Now, mind you, it's not as pricey as the actual items, but it's pricey. It's $100 a piece, and you're going to have to pay an additional $30 to get it shipped to you. And I want to say the auction isn't till November, so that's when they'll be shipping this hardcover catalog out into the world. But pre-bidding actually is this month, right, Lauren? Starting on the 22nd?
Yes, starting on the 22nd, you'll be able to see what they have going on there. And if you are maybe it's all a little too rich for your blood, you can still see a lot of like the most iconic characters that are safely at the Smithsonian, like the original Kermit with the one with his old mom's coat and like ping pong balls.
Also, worth noting here, in fact, this Saturday, I'm supposed to actually drive down to Queens, New York, to the Museum of the Moving Image. Neil O'Brien, the author of After Disney, that great book about the company in the late 70s, early 80s. It's largely about the Black Cauldron. Neil's there this Saturday to do a presentation about the Black Cauldron and do a book signing afterwards. But the other thing that's really cool about the Museum of Moving Image, and I literally told Neil that since 2019, I've been trying to invent an excuse to go down to Queens to the Museum of Moving Image, because they have the Jim Henson display there permanently, and they have, I want to say, 30 or 40 full-size puppets and lots of props. So, again, if you can't get the Smithsonian, but you can get the Queens, go check out the Museum of the Moving Image. But again, those Muppets are cute, but they're not quite as cute as Ollie, the gingerbread man at Jollywood Nights, right?
Oh, no. I mean, Disney is really going hard into Ollie. I think they're really trying to make him a thing. So Ollie the Gingerbread Man is back this year. And Jollywood Nights, I believe, starts on Saturday, November 8th. So by the time this podcast drops, we'll just be a month out from Jollywood Nights. And this year's theme is a little different as far as like the color scheme, but Ollie is the same as what we got last year. The big item is the exclusive Spirit jersey, because you want your bragging rights. So this one is like retro style. It's that, like, I don't know, would you say like a bright sky blue color?
Yeah.
And with the little red accents.
And classic Disney Spirit jersey. I wish they'd do a V-neck, but again, I'm a whiny baby man. What else can I tell you? But what else do we have that adorned with Ollie this year?
Well, I mean, you get your normal cast of characters. You get your Loungefly, headbands, mugs, ornaments. But, Jim, I sent you a picture of the ears. Did those not look like little Ollie waffles to you?
This is the thing. Ollie is a gingerbread man. And again, I snack my way through the holidays. So, kind of dangerous to have something that looks that much like a food product on the top of somebody else's head.
And it looks like to me, it looks like there's a slab of butter in the middle.
Yes,
I'm just
a
saying.
little swirl, a pat of butter right
some
there.
syrup. I don't know. They're very, very cute. And then there is an ornament, and it's like waving atop of Jollywood Nights marquee.
I gotta say, I actually like the Ollie ornament. I like the likeness. I like the stylization. I'm hoping that, again, I'm supposed to be down there in November to do IAPA with Mr. Testa and Mr. Schul, but I'm hoping I can actually get into the park in time to score one of these. But do they say if they're going to be sold during the day-to-day guests, or do I have to have a ticket to Jollywood Nights to get this merch?
I think you have to be at Jollywood Nights to get these. But I also want to say, Jim, looking at this ornament, does this remind you of, I don't know the era, I'm very sorry, but I'm going to say like 50s or 60s, when you would go to the drive-in and there would be like the little animated like popcorn and hot dog and, like, let's all go to the movies.
There we go. No, this is that level of cuteness that we saw with Speedy Alka-Seltzer. I mean, yes, the Disney definitely leaned into the character stylization of the 40s and the 50s when it came to Ollie. Now, mind you, again, I want to stress here that Len's sister Chrissy, who does all of these events, whenever she sees Ollie, she quotes that line from Mean Girls as like, "Stop trying to make fetch happen." She just have a mind that, I know what you're trying to do here, create a character associated with this event. And in fact, I'm not going to lie, that's kind of why I'm drawn to catching or collecting some Aldi stuff, because I have the uneasy feeling that maybe further on down the line, Ollie may go live at a farm upstate, where he can run and play.
Or a wolf might bite his head off, like...
There we go.
Okay, for reals. Okay, so we got to talk about it. I know this is the Disney show, but I feel like they were taking a page out of Universal's book with Earl the Squirrel, who I live for Earl the Squirrel. Earl the Squirrel. Who do you think is better, Ollie or Earl the Squirrel?
Well, I mean, Earl the Squirrel is not, Earl the Squirrel has a history. I mean, Earl the Squirrel can be traced all the way back to National Lampoon's Vacation, that we have the original mechanical Earl the Squirrel that used to poke his head out of the Christmas tree, and he organically grew into something where Ollie, again, I feel like Ollie was born in a conference room, okay? We need a character to be the icon, the logo for this event. And how about a gingerbread man? How about a gingerbread man who looked like he was from the 40s or the 50s? And, I mean, and when you think about when you come and go from Jollywood Nights and you have that neon sign with Ollie on it. I mean, again, some conscious design choices were made, whereas Earl the Squirrel, he just happened organically, and it's been fun over the past couple of years to watch Earl get a girlfriend and get an origin story. To be honest, there's a part of me that can't wait to see, all right, what else are we getting Earl the Squirrel wise as when Universal finally rolls out its Christmas, of 2025 stuff.
I cannot even wait. I think he was got a whole tribute store last year. It was storybook.
He did, yeah. And thanks to my buddy BioReconstruct, I got a copy of the actual Earl the Squirrel origin story. So if we ever want to share that story with folks here, I've got the original.
All right, maybe a Patreon exclusive. But Ollie got you thinking, right? For today's feature, what are we getting ready to hear?
Well, yeah. We were just talking about Ollie, one of the newer aspects of Disney's Hollywood studio. Again, mascot of Jollywood Nights. And I thought for this week's feature, we would talk about one of the older aspects of this theme park, once upon a time known as Disney MGM, and that is Sears, the company that was originally supposed to sponsor this theme park's marquee attraction, which, before Mickey and Minnie began running their runaway railway through that building, it was going to be called Great Moments of the Movies. But I tell you what, Lauren, when we get back from this break, I will share that story. But first, this.
Purina believes no one should have to make the impossible choice between their own safety and their pets. But nearly half of domestic abuse survivors delay leaving because they can't bring their pets with them. Through the Purple Leash Project, Purina is helping create more pet-friendly domestic violence shelters so survivors and their pets can escape and heal together. Visit purina.com/purple to learn more.
Experience a membership that backs what you're building with American Express Business Platinum. Get 2 times membership rewards points per dollar on eligible purchases in key business categories, as well as on each eligible purchase of $5,000 or more, on up to $2 million in eligible purchases per calendar year. American Express Business Platinum. There's nothing like it. Terms apply. Learn more at americanexpress.com/business-platinum.
Big news! Sephora is now on Uber Eats. So if you find yourself facing a beauty emergency, like needing a last-minute gift, or you're just out of your favorite mascara, again, don't panic. We got you. Order now and get $10 off on Sephora orders of $50 or more on the Uber Eats app. Order now. Offer ends October 30th. 1 order per customer. Additional terms apply. See app for availability. Delivery fees may apply.
And we're back, Lauren. Okay, so we're telling the story today of Disney and Sears. There's a part of me that's really sad as I tell this story, Lauren, because again, I'm old. I'm 66 years old, okay? But Sears has recently, as 2011, had over 2,700 stores in operation in North America. Today, Lauren, down to 5. And this is the thing that back in November of 1987, there was this big announcement at Disney, that they had just formed this 10-year-long alliance with Sears, and they were going to sponsor the marquee attraction at the studios. And again, this was prior to it being called the Great Movie Ride. Back then, it was known as the Great Moments of the Movie attraction. And Sears was actually going to not just sponsor but operate a store on Hollywood Boulevard in that same theme park. It was going to be called the Hollywood Showcase Store. But anyway, to understand how this happened, and more to the point, Disney's very long history with Sears, we have to go back all the way to the beginning, folks, and back to when this retail chain was actually known as Sears, Roebuck and Company. In fact, founded 1892 by Richard Warren Sears and Alva Curtis Roebuck. And again, what I find kind of delightful about this story, Lauren, is, face it, today everybody talks about, brick and mortar, going away, because of the Amazons of the world. And here's the irony. Sears, for its first 33 years, was strictly a catalog operation. I mean, the first physical Sears store didn't open till 1925.
Jim, you just took me back to my youth. Like, that was what Christmas was about. Do you remember the giant Sears catalog?
The Wish Book. Yes.
Sorry, I digress.
Okay. No, you're not wrong. It was called the Sears Wish Book. It was their Christmas catalog, and the company deliberately sent it out every August with the idea that you'd have a couple of months to sit at home and page through this thing and, look at, and I wish I could have that for Christmas, and make sure you said it loud enough for Mom and Dad to hear. Now, interesting thing, the very first year the Wish Book comes out, that's 1933, and what's featured in the Wish Book but the Mickey Mouse watch. In fact, it's in the inaugural edition of the Sears Wish Book. This is the one that was made by the Ingersoll Watch Company of Waterbury, Connecticut, and by the way, Lauren, went for a whopping $3.25, which okay, checking with the inflation calculator, that's nearly $80 in 2025 money, $79.77 to be exact. Anyway, Ingersoll sells so many of these things back in the 30s that, the executives who ran Ingersoll, the watch company, literally credit Mickey for saving them from bankruptcy. And again, you got to remember, this is the middle of the Great Depression. And in fact, to keep the sales going in the 34 and 35 edition of the Wish Book, Sears actually drops the price of the Mickey Mouse watch from $325 to $295, and so that's $72 in 2025 money. And I know you'll love this story, Lauren. It's July of 1995, and Bob Iger, who is at this time, he's the president of ABC Television. He's also the president and chief operating officer of ABC Cap Cities. And he learns that day that the Walt Disney Company is going to buy ABC Cap Cities for $19 billion. And he's like, all right, I got to do something to show Michael Eisner, the CEO of Disney, that I'm on board with this. So he literally goes to an antique store in New York City and says, I need an original Mickey Mouse watch. And he literally buys one of the 1933 Ingersoll Mickey Mouse watches. And the very next meeting that he has with Michael Eisner, Iger is wearing the Mickey Mouse watch, and it said, I went that day, I bought the antique watch, I'm on board. And Eisner's like, okay, I can work with this guy. He gets Disney, he gets, and sure enough, they worked together for 20 years. And September 2005, Michael turns the entire operation over to Iger. He becomes the new CEO September of 2005. All right. Anyway, back to the Wish Book, which Lauren was just making excited noises about. As the decades fly by, whatever project Disney has in the spotlight that year, you can expect to see, in the spotlight in that year's edition of Sears Christmas catalog. For example, the late 1950s, you could buy an entire playset that recreated the Main Street area at Disneyland from Sears. And then in the mid-1960s, honestly, one of the smartest deals that this retailer ever made, Sears got the exclusive license to make merch based on the studio's 1966 animated featurette, Winnie the Pooh and the Honey Tree. And later on, just a few years later, when Winnie the Pooh and the Honey Tree and its Academy Award-winning follow-up, Winnie the Pooh and the Blustery Day, when they begin airing annually on NBC, Sears arranges to be the sole sponsor of that broadcast, which then prompts a whole lot of Disney fans to, order items out of that year's Wish Book. And Lauren, not to belabor the obvious here, but that one deal, that exclusive with Disney, the Winnie the Pooh licensing agreement, that generated $1 billion worth of business for Sears mid-1960s through the early 1970s. So, again, people were making serious money on the back this arrangement between or this relationship between Disney and Sears. But if we now jump ahead to the early 1980s, this is when Sears, which is rebranded from being Sears, Roebuck and Company in '66 to just plain Sears, they make the decision to diversify. So in 1981, they move into the financial space. They buy real estate company Coldwell Banker, and they also buy stockbroker Dean Witter. They follow this move by partnering with CBS and IBM to launch Prodigy. Did you know that Sears was actually one of the partners for Prodigy?
I did not.
That got by me. But anyway, that's 1984. And the following year, 1985, Sears decides that, okay, we want to get in the credit card game. So they launched the Discover card. Now, downside of doing this is that executives at Sears have now taken their eye off the prize, which is the company's retail and catalog business, and which then offers Sears direct competitors like Walmart and Kmart the opportunity to make significant inroads into this business space, which would bite this company in the butt in 1990s, which was when Walmart first managed to surpass Sears as the largest retailer in the United States. Which now brings us to 1986. Which is when that year's edition of the Wish Book doesn't highlight a Disney film or character, but rather shines a spotlight on Feifel Mouskowitz. Do you know this character, Lauren? From
I do not, Jim.
Okay.
No.
This is from The American Tail. This is Universal Pictures' big Thanksgiving release, again, for 1986. It's an Amblin Entertainment film, animated. It's directed by Disney vet Don Bluth, and is produced by Steven Spielberg. In fact, Steven, this is his first attempt at a full-length animated feature, and it's basically the story of how his grandfather came to America, only in mouse form. Now, this aggravates the folks at Disney no end. Because, first of all, American Tail manages to outgross The Great Mouse Detective, which is Disney's big animated film for 1986. Spielberg's first animated film makes $84 million in ticket sales in North America, whereas The Great Mouse Detective only sells 50 in that same territory. And weird little bend on this story, Lauren. A number of folks at Disney blamed The Great Mouse Detective, its underperformance at the box office, because, just 7 months prior to this animated film being released to theaters, Michael Eisner makes the decision to change the name of the film from Basil of Baker Street to The Great Mouse Detective. And this is because December of '85, Paramount had put Young Sherlock Holmes out into theaters, and this was produced by Steven Spielberg, was directed by Barry Levinson, A-list cast, amazing production values, still underperforms at the box office, and so here's Eisner at Disney, and again, remember, he used to run Paramount, so he's paying attention to how that studio is doing, and when Young Sherlock Holmes underperforms at the box office, he thinks, oof, we're making Basil of Baker Street, which, again, is based on a popular series of books written by Eve Titus and Paul Galdon. But it's about a mouse detective who lives in 22B Baker Street. That's the very same flat that in London that Sherlock Holmes and where he and Dr. Watson live. And this makes Eisner panic. He thinks, okay, why did Young Sherlock Holmes fail at the box office? Especially with younger moviegoers, is it too strongly linked to Sherlock Holmes, or is it too English? So Eisner decides, 8 months out from release to theaters, we're going to change the name, which infuriates all the animators and artists who've spent a year and a half now animating Basil of Baker Street. So there's this gag memo that starts making the rounds at Disney Studio, and it's supposedly written by the then head of feature animation, Peter Schneider, which says that on the heels of this name change, some of Disney's classic animated films are going to be renamed as well. I mean, for example, Seven Dwarfs is now going to be rebranded as Seven Little Men Who Help a Girl. Dumbo is going to get renamed The Wonderful Elephant Who Could Really Fly. And then Cinderella is going to be The Girl with the See-Through Shoes. All right, now here's the thing. Animator Ed Gromberg is the guy who wrote the memo, which again is circulated under Peter Schneider, his boss's name. And Peter Schneider evidently has no sense of humor. All right, he was furious, and he launches a witch hunt to find out who really wrote the memo. But the staff lock step. They close ranks. Nobody's given up Ed's name. Not for at least another 15 years, which is when Peter Schneider finally leaves Disney Studio in California for New York. He begins running Disney's Broadway operation in 2001. But again, that they protected Ed. And so now after the fact, we can share that story. But again, back to 1986. This is when Disney, on the heels of Fievel becoming the star of that year's edition of the Wish Book, reaches out to Sears and says, we need to have a talk. And we will get to the topic of that talk in a moment. But first, this.
ABC Wednesdays. Shifting Gears is back.
He has arisen.
Tim Allen and Kat Dennings return in television's #1 new comedy.
What?
With a star-studded premiere including Jenna Elfman, Nancy Travis, and...
Hey, buddy!
A big home improvement reunion.
Welcome.
Oh, boy.
That guy's a tool.
Shifting Gears. New Wednesdays, 8/7 Central on ABC. And stream on Hulu.
The family that vacations together stays together. At least, that was the plan. Except now, the dastardly desk clerk is saying he can't confirm your connecting rooms.
Wait, what?
That's right, ma'am. You have rooms 201 and 709.
No, we cannot be 5 floors away from our kids.
The doors have double locks. They'll be fine.
When you want connecting rooms confirmed before you arrive, it matters where you stay.
Welcome to Hilton. I see your connecting rooms are already confirmed.
Hilton, for the stay.
This episode is brought to you by Nespresso and Samra Origins by the Weekend Coffee Collection.
Introducing Samra Origins. My collaboration with Nespresso is a connection to my roots, to my mother, Samra. Coffee that hits the right notes. It transports you. Crafted with unique notes and bold, soaring flavors. Experience a taste that moves you. Nespresso and Samra Origins.
Discover more at Nespresso.com.
And we're back. Okay, Lauren, just to recap here, Disney has a lengthy history with Sears. And again, original Mickey Mouse watch available for purchase 1933 in the first Wish book, the Sears Christmas catalog. Disney is now unhappy with that retail giant because for Christmas of 86, Sears got behind Fievel, the star of Steven Spielberg's American Tail, and again, Universal Picture release of a Don Bluth movie rather than a Disney mouse. And by the way, back in 86, you had your choice between Mickey or Basil of Baker Street, again, the title character of The Great Mouse Detective. And I'm not going to lie here, Lauren, there was a secondary issue. There were still very hard feelings at Disney Studios about how Don Bluth had left the company back in September of 1979. When Don walked away from Disney Studios, he took a quarter of the studio's animation staff with him, people that Disney had trained for years. So... bad blood. There were, even 7 years after the fact, there was still bad blood. How much bad blood? Production of Who Framed Roger Rabbit is beginning in the UK in November of 86. Very same month, by the way, that American Tail is released at theaters. And Steven Spielberg is producing this live-action animated film for Disney. And at that time, Spielberg turns to, the folks at Disney and says, I really liked working with Don Bluth. I think his team of animators did a great job with American Tail. So I would like to hire Don and his team to handle all of the animated parts of Who Framed Roger Rabbit. And Disney's response was a flat out no, that Don Bluth would have absolutely nothing to do with Who Framed Roger Rabbit. And if Spielberg insisted on going forward with Bluth as head of animation on this film, Disney would literally walk away from this project. And there was no give on that point, Lauren. This is actually how Richard Williams wound up as the de facto director of animation on Who Framed Roger Rabbit. He was Spielberg's second choice. And don't get me wrong, Williams and his team were definitely up to the task, but if Steven had his way, it would have been Don Bluth who handled all the animation in Roger Rabbit. Anyway, back to Disney and Sears. It's now early 87. Disney travels to Chicago and meets with executives of this retail giant in their corporate headquarters, which was then known as the Sears Tower, now the Willis Tower. At the time, it was the tallest building in the world, Lauren, 108 floors. And so Disney meets with executives at Sears and says, please don't do that again. Don't promote another rival at Studios animated character. If you stick with Disney, we will give you access to our classic characters as well as our newest characters. And toward the end of this presentation, Lauren, the Disney folks show executive at Sears some work in progress stuff from Who Framed Roger Rabbit. And, they very proudly show this bunch of guys from Chicago, Jessica Rabbit. And Sears is like, oh, are you kidding? We can't put that in the Christmas catalog. Moms would take one look at that and then, put this year's wish book under lock and key. So the folks at Sears are, you got anything else? And Disney says, well, Christmas of 88. Next year, we've got Oliver and the Dodger. That's a modern-day retelling of Charles Dickens' Oliver Twist. Only this version, animated version, isn't set in 18th century London, but rather modern-day Manhattan. And the Dodger is a dog, voiced by Billy Joel. And Oliver's a kitten, voiced by Joey Lawrence, who's like 8 at the time. And Sears is like, okay, cute little cats and dogs. That we can sell in the Christmas catalog. What else you got? And Disney responds, well, we're opening a brand new theme park in Florida, spring of 89. And how would you feel about sponsoring the marquee attraction at Disney MGM? And Sears is like, boof, where do we sign? Now, mind you, Lauren, takes a few months to hammer out the details, but by November of 87, Disney and Sears officially announced this deal. 10-year-long joint marketing and licensing agreement, which will grant Sears the exclusive rights to characters from future Disney films and limited rights to characters from already released Disney full-length feature films. But it's a dream deal for both partners, which then sadly quickly unravels because as 1987 gives way to 1988, Sears finds itself severely overextended financially. And how bad did it get? Sears actually announces, and again, this is in 88, that they are now looking to sell the Sears Tower. And again, they've got a price in mind for this 108-story tall building. It's $1 billion. But when no one steps forward with $1 billion for that building, the company now begins a cost-cutting initiative in 89. And part of that cost-cutting initiative, Lauren, is they reach out to Disney and said, hey, you know that thing we were going to sponsor at your theme park, Great Moments of the Movie. Likewise, that store, we were going to operate down on Hollywood Boulevard. You can forget about that. We're pulling out of this. Now, mind you, Sears does this February of 1989. This is less than 3 months before Disney MGM opens to the public. Now, mind you, Coca-Cola is able to step in at the last moment, and now they're the host of what is now known as the Great Movie Ride. But there are definitely hard feelings between Disney and Sears, especially given the especially short notice that this retailer gave Mouse House officials about the cancellation of the theme park sponsorship deal. In fact, Disney is so mad, Lauren, at Sears for pulling out of the sponsorship of Great Movie Ride that they say, okay, fine. You want to play it this way? You just lost the rights to make any merchandise that keys off of our next animated feature, The Little Mermaid. And this is the thing. This ends up biting Disney in the butt because when that John Musker and Ron Clements film finally comes out in November of '89, there's just a handful of Little Mermaid pieces available because, again, that exclusive deal that Disney signed with Sears back in November of '87, the bulk of the merch was supposed to be sold at Sears. And when Disney jerks that exclusive license away from Sears in the late winter, early spring of '89, there's just not enough time to line up any replacement companies to make additional toys. And, as for the rest of the story, in the decades that follow, Sears struggles to find its footing in a world where Walmart begins eating its lunch. By 2005, hedge fund billionaire Eddie Lambert gains control of Sears by spending $11 billion on the company. But Lambert now adopts if you can't beat him, join him philosophy by literally merging Sears with Kmart. And so much of the stuff, Lauren, that used to make Sears special, like, for example, the Wish Book, the company's very last Christmas catalog went out in the mail in 2011. And by 2018, Sears is forced into bankruptcy, which brings us to today. And as we mentioned at the top of today's feature, just 5 Sears stores left in all of North America. Though, to be fair here, Lauren, once upon a time, there were 749 Disney stores around the world, with more than 600 of those located in North America. That was at its peak in '99. Today, that retail chain is shrunk to just 21 Disney stores. So even the mouse wasn't immune to the fiscal pressures and the financial realities that then took down the once mighty Sears. Though, that said, and again, this is a collectible show, folks, so we always want to mention, end on that note when we can. Those Oliver and Company toys that were exclusive to Sears back in November of 1988 are still highly prized by Disney collectors. There's some wonderful likenesses and some beautiful pieces out there. So, if you want an entertaining evening on eBay, plug in Sears, Oliver and Company, and take a look at some fun toys from that film. But anyway, there you go, Lauren. That's the story of Disney and Sears.
That was a great one, Jim. Thank you for sharing. And you learn something new every day, folks, I guess. But on that note, I think it is time we close up shop for today.
Okay. And by the way, if you want to keep up on everything that's happening across the Jim Hill Media Podcast Network, you can follow us on social. And don't forget to check out our Patreon for bonus shows and early access.
Absolutely. And if you like today's episode, let us know. Leave us a review.
Oh, and if you have a question or an idea for a future show, or, if like our listener at the top of the show, if you have information to share about Wicked in dishwashing related projects, please send us a message. I can be reached at jim@jimhillmedia.com. And Lauren, where can the nice folks find you?
They can find me at laurenhersey.com or send me a DM on Instagram. I love seeing what you guys are sending me. I'll have to tell you about Ashley and her mugs from Trader Sam's. But anyways, maybe on the next episode. But that does it for today's episode. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time on I Want That Too.